Welcome to Novelist Spotlight. This is Mike Consol, your host. Two quick things before introducing you to my guest. First, I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast by clicking on the follow button and also clicking on the bell icon so you are alerted to each new edition of the program. Second, in addition to being the producer of this podcast and interviewing novelists, I am a novelist myself. I've written 4 books, 3 novels, and 1 short story collection. In the episode notes, you will find a short link to my Amazon page and all 4 of those titles. Now, on with our program. In the spotlight is Lisa Endo Cooper and Bremond MacDougall, as well as their organization, Quite Literally Books. So Lisa Endo Cooper and Bremond MacDougall met on the first day of 7th grade and quickly discovered their shared love for books. Decades later, they founded Quite Literally Books, a woman-owned small heritage press reprinting forgotten books by American women authors to share with new generations of literary lovers. As publishers, they are dedicated to creating new editions of ought-to-be in-print books, maybe not in-print books, but these are public domain books. They no longer in print, but these are works of good fiction or great fiction by women who have been forgotten in some cases. And in so doing, this whole process, what they're hoping to do is to be part of an ongoing conversation about quintessential questions of belonging and the American literary canon, who's included and who gets to decide, and so on. I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a woman in the publishing business, although that was not always the case, not by a long shot. And as Lisa and Bremond reach back in time, they are rescuing women authors who never necessarily got their due. So with that, ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Hi.
So let's start from the beginning. Now, decades later, after you two had met and have been friends a long time, you love to read. Talk about how this whole idea and the name, Quite Literally Books, came into being.
Decades later makes it sound so long.
Well, maybe just 1 or 2 decades later.
Many years later.
Many decades is actually accurate.
Really, it's true.
So the idea for Quite Literally Books was born in the pandemic. Bremond and I have been friends for many decades, but definitely during the pandemic, we were reconnecting and spending a lot more time together on the phone. And we were both turning 50 that year. And we started thinking about how do we want to spend, this next chapter of our lives? How do we want to spend it? What do we want to do? Who do we want to be doing it with? And we knew we both wanted to do something around books. The thought of doing something together was very exciting. And for some reason, we thought, why not start publishing books now? And it really was that simple. It's sort of like being, like doing the pie in the sky version of what our lives could be like. And that's where we started, and we decided to go for it.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is so specific. It's so specific. Yeah. You've decided that these are books that are 100 years old or more. And that, how did you arrive at that? I mean, you must have had a conversation about, if we're going to be publishers, what are we going to publish? And how did you arrive at that?
I think part of it was a way to sort of limit the scope a little bit. There's so many books. There are so many books out there. There are
so many genres. You have to have a focus. There's no question about that. You have to have a focus.
So that was part of it. There are other small presses that are doing in the United States that are doing different things, and this was something that sort of there was room for this. There was room for this in the indie publishing world here in the U.S., and so it seemed like the right thing.
Yeah.
And we're girls, and and we have daughters, and
we're big history buffs too.
Yeah.
So we've already, this is sort of what we did for fun long before we ever thought of trying to, make a business out of it. This is sort of born out of an authentic and real love for old books and old books by women.
And part of the reason I think there was room for this in the publishing landscape is that, women, out of print books by women, there are so very many more out of print authors, I think, are women. I'm not sure if I'm saying that
fair.
right.
Yeah.
But
So higher.
there are just an awful lot of female authors who were bestsellers, who were, got rave reviews, who wrote 25 novels over the course of their career, and they're just gone.
Yeah, they've faded into obscurity.
Yeah.
And we found that there were a lot of those. And there were also people who maybe were published and then just didn't enjoy a lot of attention at the time they were published as well. It's all fair game and very interesting for us.
How do you decide on which authors you will actually bring back?
We do a lot of research. We've spent a lot of time going over New York Times bestseller lists from 100 years ago, other kinds of lists of best of, book of the month club lists, just things like that, and we sort of go from there, find authors that look interesting. We spend a lot of time in libraries, specifically the New York Society Library, which has a large collection and an old collection. They have a lot of old books that have never been culled, which is wonderful. And so sometimes we've done research and we go to the library to find something specific, and sometimes we just sort of rummage the shelves, rummage the stacks, and see if there's anything interesting. And we've actually found some things that way. So that's kind of fun.
Are your reading appetites the same? I mean, do you both read the same novel from the past and agree on it? I mean, previous to even starting, quite literally, books, did you two read the same type of material?
When we were younger, I would say that our tastes were almost identical. In fact, that may be why we bonded so quickly. And then as we've gotten, older, decades and decades later, our tastes have diverged. But what we've found is that there's definitely like a Venn diagram. The overlap is very big. And I've always considered Bremond to be one of the best people for me to get recommendations from, because even if I don't love it in the same way that she does, it always opens up a great conversation. And I trust her taste. It's something that she's proven to me, over and over and over again. And even in the years when we would, sort of be out of touch a little bit, this is actually true. It's not a joke. I would text her standing, in a bookstore and be like, what should I get? And she never texts me back. But if I'm standing in a bookstore texting her, she will text me back right away with a very comprehensive list of what I should be considering. And she's never wrong. It doesn't mean I'll love it. But it means like it is a book that's compelling for some reason and it's worthy of a chat.
Well, and
go ahead, finish that thought.
Lisa pushes me a little bit. I think I tend to like more sort of conventional novels. And I think you pushed me into, I don't know, just sort of
weird spaces.
Well, just, different.
Yeah.
And I really.
But what do you mean by contemporary? You mean today's novels versus?
No, even like the old stuff. I mean, it's interesting. And we notice different things about the stuff that we read. Our takes are different and the things that we come away with, but even just like details that stand out to me will hit Bremond differently. And she'll call my attention to some passage that I just like blew past. And she'll be like, but what about this? And I'm like, wow. Like I think we both read with a lot of attention to detail. It's just different details, right? That pop out at us.
Yes.
And to me, that's fascinating. And I think that in this last 5 years since we've taken on this project, I think we know each other better than we've ever known each other before. And a lot of it comes out of the conversations that arise from our books.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with books that are public domain, so you don't have to pay the author. I also am looking at your website and I see that it seems like you have a design format. So, for instance, basically the typeface, the title at the top, the name of the author, and then you've got a stylized, each book has its own stylized piece of art. Is that part of are you doing that for the sake of efficiency and branding? And it's also cost savings, I would imagine, when you've got a design that's basically synonymous with all the books. The artwork itself changes. So I guess I'm getting at your business model because you don't have to pay the author, which means that there's not an opportunity here to make some money, hopefully. And then what about the design and production and so on? And what formats do they come in? Is it strictly print? Are there ebooks? Are there going to be audiobooks, or are there audiobooks?
Well, you've asked several really good questions, so we're going to kind of pass this back and forth for a second. But I'll say, first of all, one of the things that we really cared about when we're talking about the design of the book is that it just be a really delightful reading experience. We want to make things analog cool again, and also help people remember that the act of reading is like a holistic, visceral experience. And it's lovely if you have a really good book in your hands. So yes, these books were designed to be pleasing to the eye. They smell good. They fit well in your hands. The font is of a certain size, so they're easy to read. All these things were very intentional, very considered, and the book was designed to do that.
So the covers, we have commissioned artwork. The first three books, the artwork on the covers was done by Anthony Russo, who is a well-known artist. He's done a number of he does New Yorker covers. He's done illustrations in the New York Times, that sort of thing. And then the books 4, 5, and 6, the art was done by a woman named Megan Mulholland, who Lisa met at a book event at a bookstore and started talking with her, and she just seemed like a really good fit for us. So it is a branding thing that the books all the framework is the same for each of the books.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the title is the same, the font is the same, all of that is quite literally books. Like that is our design. But then, and the red, that's our red. But then the artwork, we will hopefully, our intention is to change for every group of books that we do, to have a different artist working within that framework, to make the covers. And I don't know how cost effective it was, because art is not inexpensive. If we were really
Mm-hmm.
we were really trying to, when we first started out thinking about what we wanted the books to look like, we thought, well, we'll make them very plain, and that will be really easy. But then we didn't like that. We really wanted them to be visually striking, so that when you walk by this book on a table in a bookstore, you go, oh wow, what is that? Look at that looks different.
Yes,
from
they are attractive. They are
everything
attractive,
else.
and I think they differentiate themselves from 99% of the book covers out there. But at the same time, you are putting out a product that I think somebody can look at, just like a penguin. A penguin when you're looking at a penguin book. People can look at this design style, this structure, and think that's a quite literally book. I want to check it out because I've read some of their stuff, or I'm a member. Is there such a thing as membership with quite literally books?
Not explicitly, but that gets to one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, why we wanted to publish these books, is we really love engaging with a community of readers. And, we thought, well, if we build it, maybe they will come. And having a recognizable look certainly, I think, invites that. And the nice thing is membership is open to anyone who wants to read a book and talk about it with us.
Or even just read a book where you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Talk about it, but boy, we do love getting comments and getting emails from people. It's fun.
As far as other formats go, we don't have any plans to do ebooks, just because that's sort of not our thing. I think audiobooks are a maybe. but we've had a number of people who said, "Oh, we'd love to do this for a book club, but our book club only does audiobooks."
Oh, I've never
Just
heard
kind
of that
of
before.
thinking
I
that's
do
a
audiobooks myself, but I've
yeah.
never heard of a book club that only does audiobooks.
Yeah. I think it's just a convenience thing. I think if you spend a lot of time in your car or a lot of time on the treadmill or whatever, it's just easy. It's a very easy format. So that's a maybe. But I think
We're
that's
open to
yeah.
exploring things. We're still, in our first year of being
Yeah.
out in the world,
Yes.
and we're learning a lot. And as
So
much
you
as
you started it 5 years ago, is that right? But it's only in the last
we
Yeah.
year
started,
that you've really been active with it?
I would say it
We
was the
started talking about it.
product of our brains 5 years
Yeah.
ago. It's only been about 3 years that we've been just very actively, pursuing it. And our books have only been out in the world since April 7th of this year. So we're a fledgling publisher.
Sure. And I see you have a newsletter here, and I just want to let our listeners know that some of the headlines on them is a book lover's gift guide. And there's one that says, "Let's celebrate this bookish holiday." And now let's get past holidays. There's one that says, "Long before Barbie Land, there was her land." And another one says, "It's dinner time somewhere." These are all articles from the newsletter. And they also have one, "Our favorite books of all time." And the subhead on that is, "These tried and true favorites are always calling out from our shelves to be read again and again." You're so early on. I don't know if it's a fair question to say, do you have one that has been particularly popular?
It's so interesting. It sort of depends on like the area that it's being sold in. I've noticed, like,
Mhm.
at certain book fairs and things, one will suddenly be out in front, and
We were at an event last night and we ran out of the Pink House
yeah.
and which the Pink House, I mean, it's interesting. They've all pretty much sold, I think, evenly.
Hmm.
But yes, but ever occasionally we're somewhere where it's like, oh wait, hold it. We didn't think we needed to bring extra
Exactly.
Herlands or extra whatever it
Yeah.
is.
I will say one thing. You mentioned a couple times that our books are in the public domain. That's true of all of our books except for one. And that's not like on purpose. That's just sort of how it's happened. And while it's true that we don't have to pay, for a book that's in the public domain, it also usually means that there are other copies to be had out there and that anyone can print it. So that is not actually at the end of the day a big moneymaker for us.
Or advantage. Yeah, it's not, you
Yeah.
have no moat around your organization
Yeah.
because anybody else
Exactly.
can reach out.
Correct.
Obviously, you put a lot of care into how these things are presented and what you're selecting. I can see people saying, 100 years ago, people didn't talk like we do today and they didn't write like we do today. Is that a stumbling block at all?
It is often, yes. I think the six books that we have put out um, are particularly uh, well written and written in a way that does not necessarily pigeonhole them as a book that was written a long time ago. I mean, Lisa and I have read hundreds of books
Hundreds.
probably
Hundreds at this
to
point.
get to sift through to get to the six that we've initially published. And there are a lot of books out there that just need, or it's okay if they stay on the shelf. They're not that good. I mean, Edna Ferber is an author that people talk to us about all the time, and people loved her books, and they were so popular, and we've probably read five Edna Ferber books, and each time we think, no, this is just it's not that good. Maybe it was good, 50 years ago, but it's just not that good. So things age differently, and weather
Yeah.
differently.
Mhm.
So
The
you're trying to be sensitive to modern sensibilities.
Well, yeah, I mean, are we trying to be sensitive to them? I think we're aware of them because we have them, like, as readers, so we get it. I think that really there's sort of just like a gut check that happens as we're reading it. Like, is it something that I can't put down?
Was
Is
it
it
someone that is it something that you could recommend to
You.
Yeah, right. That doesn't need to be qualified. Like, it's really old and the language is really weird, but read it
Yeah.
anyway. But it's something that you can go, oh my gosh, this is so good.
It's still
Read
good.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think all of our books hold up. I mean, that's why we reprinted them. We don't print anything, although we love history and we love learning all this stuff. We're not printing anything just for the sake of it being a relic. We want it to be something that still feels like there's there's something that is true about it even today, so that when you read it, it resonates. And the language piece is something that we're aware of. We don't want to print something that is just going to be a slog to get through and be like, just hang on, it gets better. Just like try to get through the like we don't want that as part of the reading experience. I think a lot of people are fine with that, but
Well, right. That is a reading experience.
yeah.
And sometimes it's fun to do that, or it's worthwhile to do that.
Mhm.
As publishers, I think it's hard to put something like that
Right. We're
out into the world.
asking people to spend, 12, 15 hours
Yeah.
maybe, or I don't
Spend
know.
money.
And yeah, with us on our books, we want it to be just a really pleasurable experience. Which is not to say that all of our books are like happy and bubbly and effervescent. In fact, some of them, really make you think, but it feels worthwhile, we hope.
Yeah.
So your yardstick for success, quite literally, books will be a success for us if or when what?
Oh. That has been sort of a moving target
Uh-huh.
question. I mean, okay, so
This is a love play. This is a love play. You
okay,
love books, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
It doesn't sound like you're overly, you seem much more focused on the literature than you are necessarily the business plan, although clearly you have a business plan. I mean, I can see that you're putting a lot of thought into things. I don't mean to imply that you're just winging it. Although you're like with any business, especially a new business, you learn as you go and then you make these course corrections.
Yes.
But you have at least toyed with that idea. How do we know we're successful? And have you come up with what are some of the bits and pieces of answers?
Well, okay, so it's true. We've been talking about the part that we like to talk about and the part that we like to do. There is a whole operational piece to this. There is a whole marketing piece, which is also separate from the selling piece. And that those aren't the things that we love to do. They are obviously necessary if we were to continue doing this. And that's something that we actually are figuring out in real time, and testing different theories and testing different, ways of reaching people. And so, yeah, that part is not fun for either of us. And I will say that I think in a perfect world, we will know we're successful if this business can sustain itself, if it comes to the point where it's paying for itself instead of.
But we have time. We have some time to get to that. That's built in. We really sort of pivoted. Our initial sales were not great the first few months that we were, that our books had been published. And that's, it's a hard thing to break into this industry. We sort of took stock and changed some things, and we've really made a push this fall to really sell books, and that has been extremely gratifying. We have sold a lot of books, which makes us feel a whole lot better about doing another round of fun, the fun part, doing another, putting more books out there.
What's
So
working for you? Are you going to literary conferences, book exhibitions? Are you using TikTok? What's pushing the sales?
A lot of different
Yeah.
things. One is we have a partnership with The Strand, and that has been big for us in terms of making us more visible on Instagram. We do have plans to move on to TikTok, which these are things that neither Bremond nor I are comfortable with because we don't live in that world. We are now attempting to do so, and we have some really great people who are helping us understand how all that works. But a partnership with the Strand has given us a lot of visibility. Definitely, like we went to the Texas Literary Book Festival, and that was a huge moment of sort of, getting us out into the world more. And a lot of it is just sort of organic. Like the first round of books came out in April. Our last round just came out in November. So I think just having 6 products and being able to, be able to say, okay, we now have 6 books, and going out in the world, like really going out in the world and talking about them.
I also think this is a good time of year to be selling books. This is a better time of year to be selling books than April and May, honestly, because people are thinking about gifts. They're thinking, they're looking for things at this time of the year.
And it's cozy time. It's time to curl up with the book. I mean, so, we've learned that, like, I think something like 70% of, bookstores make 70% of their sales for the year in this fourth quarter. So, these are all just things, again, that we're learning in real time. And we don't have a brick and mortar. We're doing all this online, and it's sort of counter to what we're about, because we're very much like, when you hold our books, you can tell that the quality is different from your average paperback, but you wouldn't necessarily know that, looking at it on an image online. Exactly. I mean, they look pretty, but that's why we really love to press these into people's hands and go, hold it, flip through it. You'll love it.
I think one sort of, I don't know, shorthand for me indicator of success is when we have to reorder. Like that's when we run out and have to reorder a title. I think that will make me think, okay, like this has some legs. And I think it does have legs. It's just, we're going to have to be patient and, but also.
Well, you put out half a dozen. You put out half a dozen so far. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be so as you look to 2026, do you have I don't know how thoroughly you plan, but do you know how many books you'll be putting out in 2026?
Our plan is to put out 3 a year. That is our plan. Yeah. At first we were like, well, it would be great to put out 6, but we are a very small outfit. And so it is tough for us to do all that and do the marketing and sales, and, and also we really love this idea of building a community, and that takes time, and it also takes our attention. So there are a lot of different hats that we're wearing right now, and
there's not enough of us to put out more than 3 a year. We're glad we had 6 out this first year. That really, I think, is a good thing. But
I think that was important to do.
It's not a pace that we can sustain.
So at some point, hopefully, you'll be putting out 1 a month, and maybe Simon & Schuster says, we're not doing anything like this, and we love this community you've built, and we'd like to make you a division, and we'd like you ladies. We're not going to interfere with you. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll support it. That's the that's the stretch goal, I would say. That you didn't create that, I did, but I know that would be very appealing if it was to come to pass. But let's talk about the division of labor. Do you all do the both of you do everything, or do you one of you is more the social media maven, and another one's more the hunter of new books?
We both hunt. We both.
Is that the most satisfying part of it? Is hunting for great?
Yeah, it's like our favorite thing to do. It was like, do you want to go to the library today? Is like, I
always wanted a job where I could read. Like that was my dream job. Just read. And so we both do that. Lisa has 2 daughters that are really good at Instagram, and so she ends up doing being involved in more of that, because they do a lot of the of our Instagram posts. I've been doing fulfillment. So if you order a book from us at quiteliterallybooks.com, I will wrap it and ship it to you from my very own abode. And so, there's
throw a few Tootsie Rolls in there, that sort of thing.
Well, or a pencil.
Or a pencil. A pencil and a bookmark and a tote bag. I noticed you have a really nice, attractive tote bag with the company logo on it.
Yeah, we're noticing. Well, and I just want to point out to your listeners that our tote bags have so many pockets inside. I mean, I love
Oh, they're
these bags,
strong.
not just because we designed them, but especially the natural colored one is a nice square size with a big gusset, so you can just stuff it full of like, well, books, for example, but also, you
Also
know,
groceries,
groceries and anything else that you need
workout
to.
clothes, and yeah, extra
But
pair of boots.
Yes, yes.
we
So
love
they can double as a purse. I mean, they can be a
Mhm.
purse,
and it
right?
does.
We often leave to go somewhere, and we're both carrying our one or two of our tote bags, and we look.
It's a good idea. Now, why the name Quite Literally Books? There's of course a million names you could have selected.
Yeah.
Give us the kind of the analysis on that.
Well, we spent like, I want to say like 48 very intense hours trying to come up with a name. And by the end of it, we were both like punchy, and the names had gotten super weird
Mhm.
and far from anything we would have
Can of
wanted.
sardines,
I
or
know,
I
just
mean,
like
just
really strange things were
yeah.
coming up. And we had to call it a night. And I was visiting Bremond at that time. At that time, I was still living in San Francisco. She's in New York, and I was staying with her, and we retired to our bedrooms. And um, yeah, it was like a light bulb moment. All of a sudden, I was like, quite literally books. And I texted her, and she was like, yep, that's it. And that was it.
And I
Like,
think we needed a name by like the next
I
day.
know.
And so,
But it was funny. I don't
The
think we would
deadline
have
was upon you.
gotten.
uh-huh.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten to it, I don't think, if we hadn't like truly exhausted
Yeah.
like every other possible like
But it was perfect
because
because that
yeah.
is what we want. That is what we are. That is what we do. Really, we are about the books. That's and mostly about physical books. Books that you can hold in your hand. And there, we were at an event last night.
You mentioned the smell, by the way, which
Yeah,
is
well,
one of
that's
the
what I was going to
greatest.
say.
Oh, you were okay.
We
Go
were at an
ahead.
event last night, and I was talking to a woman about the books and saying, and we've got this great paper, and she said, let me smell it. And she opened up the book, and I was like, oh, you're our reader, you're our person. Because yeah, the smell of a new book, the smell of an
Mm,
old book,
Yes,
smell of a new
yes.
book can just be
mm,
such a
mhm.
great thing. It can just like make
Yeah.
your day.
It's even better than the new car smell. A new
Oh,
book
that's
smell
so
is even better.
Yeah.
funny. I was just thinking that. We had
Were
a
you?
when we
Yeah.
were in seventh grade whose mother always got new car smell sprayed in her car when she got it. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be cool? Not then, now,
New book
if we had
smell.
new book smell.
Yes, I was just thinking that because I mean,
Every
obviously, after you brought that up,
A line of
wouldn't that
books,
be
new
interesting? Every
book
library in America would
smell.
order them and spray their all the stacks down.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
because seriously, when you walk into a good bookstore, that smell
Mhm.
is like, you walk in, you just sort of take a
And it's like,
beat.
oh,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, and
Lowers.
because we've gone digital, we've become such a digital society, and people are tactile. Not everybody, but most human beings are tactile in one way or another, and to be able to hold an object, and we forget that books were a new technology back when the Gutenberg was invented, and or even before that when they were handwritten. But the Gutenberg, of course, allowed for the mass production of books, and it's an older piece of technology, but we never let any technology we invent go. And there's still many people today who are of the mind that I want a book. I want it to be traditional. I want to be able to set it on the coffee table. I want to carry it with me. I want to be able to make notes in it and so
Yeah.
on.
Leaf
And I
through,
like
navigate.
the smell and
Mhm.
yeah, all of those things. I like to be able to hand it off. You can't really do that with
Yes.
audiobooks. You can't really do it with ebooks, at least not very easily. Whereas,
And
yeah,
here.
with a physical book, you can share it.
Yeah.
We also find that we remember things that we read on paper way better than things that we read online because just the way my brain works, like I can see it on the page, and there's just something about that, the tactile nature, of reading, like the hands on the page and like you see it there. And I don't know,
Hmm.
it just ingrains itself a little bit better. And I would say that to your point about books and technology, like we think that, books still rival AI in the sense that this is a technology that's never let us down and it's been with
Mhm.
us for generations. And um, it's still the best way to to sort of ignite creativity in your brain, and it's the best way to like ignite empathy, and it allows you to time travel and travel across the globe. And it like, is there any other technology that does that?
Remarkable.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Have you reached out to Ann Patchett, who owns Parnassus Books, the bookstore in Nashville?
So
Uh,
I have so I love her, and I have fangirled her on Instagram, but she hasn't responded to me yet, but I'm still hopeful that someday she will.
well, I think she would be a great advocate for you, and she's one of many I think that you can probably think of who would be a great advocate, including Margaret Atwood, perhaps, um,
Yeah.
and the list would go on from there. But yeah, Ann Patchett would be. She gets interviewed a lot, and to make mention of, to be able to make mention of what it is that you're doing is interesting. Let's talk about the benefits of reading. There's not that many people who are inveterate fiction readers, particularly among men. Women are more inclined to be reading fiction for sure than men are. And I think a lot of people say, well, that's just make believe. I read stuff, I want to read nonfiction. I want to, I can learn about these other things. A lot of people don't understand the emotional and psychic value of reading literature. Talk a little bit about your own experiences and how it feeds your substance.
Well, I think so. Just to go back to when I first,
Decades
really
ago.
did reading. Yeah, as even as a kid, I was definitely one of those people who felt seen when I would read certain books. Like I was growing up in Austin, Texas. I'm half Japanese, and I was sort of in a world where there weren't a lot of people who looked like me or had a background like mine. And books were like just a really great way to go to find people, if not, people who had the same background, but just like had experiences that sort of dovetailed with mine. And it was just a great feeling of like being seen, being validated. And I used books a lot for that. And I'm talking about people like, I mean, just even like a Joe March character, like so many of us connected to Joe March, and maybe for different reasons, but I was a bit of a tomboy and loved books and loved to write and felt like a misfit. And like there she was, with her brown hair. Yes, you know.
There's something in fiction about being able to um, inhabit a different world, being able to inhabit a different character, like as the reader, being able to like go into that world and go into, sort of being that character that you love or that you hate or, whatever, that I don't, that for me is different than reading nonfiction. Um, it's harder to sort of enter a nonfiction world to me somehow.
I just heard Norman Mailer say, I mean, the late, great Norman Mailer, he was on Charlie Rose, and he said, I only read nonfiction that reads like fiction. If it's not written like fiction, it doesn't have it's then it's just, it's not alive and the characters aren't real. And he's one of those guys who wrote quite a bit of nonfiction, but he wrote it in a novelistic style format. And so on.
But there is I do think that, and Lisa and I talk about this a lot, that men don't read female authors. They don't necessarily, and I'm not all men, but it seems that men are less likely to read books by fiction by female authors because the books tend to treat the emotional lives of women, the emotional lives of families, the things that are going on in the home, which somehow men tend to, I think, discount. And so they sort of stay away from that because it's not, it doesn't feel important or real to them. And so there's this idea of the fiction that is by and for women and fiction that is by men. And I don't
That's
think
for
women,
everyone.
that's for everyone,
right? Everyone should read
right.
that.
Everyone reads fiction by men, but fiction by women is really for women. And we don't love that idea.
We disagree.
Well, one of your Elisa, did you say you're from Austin, Texas?
We both are. Yeah.
You both are. Okay. Well, one of your native sons there, Larry McMurtry, happens to be a male writer who his books were full of female sensibilities. He wrote a lot about he adored women. He wrote a lot about them. Obviously, he wrote a lot about cowboys too, but books like The Terms of Endearment and Desert Rose and so on. But your point is well taken. I also think Philip Roth, another guy who's also been criticized as being misogynistic and so on, and yet his books have really compelling female characters in them. And the women who know him personally say he adores women. But your point's well taken because there is a different, just as you can hear a group of women talking, a group of men talking, and it's kind of like they're speaking a little bit different language, that men do tend to discount, or a lot of times they write Cormac McCarthy. I remember, who am I thinking of? How could I forget her? Oprah saying, "Why are there so few female characters in your books?" And he said, "I don't understand women." He said, "I can write about men because I understand them. I don't understand women, so they're just not in there." No, I'm kind of meandering here, but your point's well taken.
It's an interesting conversation because so Bremond and I were talking about this. Like, I remember when I was younger. You remember Judy Blume books, right? All the girls read "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." Because that's how most of us
wanted to know when we were going to get a chest and when we were going to get our periods
and what to do about it.
Right.
Drew me first before.
And now she's being banned in schools, and it's crazy. But I don't want to get you off track. Go ahead and finish that.
That's right. The book of hers that drew me first was actually a book called "Then Again, Maybe I Won't." And it was basically the same kind of story, except it was told from the perspective of a boy going through, puberty. And I came across that book first. And I don't think it's written for girls. But it's all about this boy's experience. It's all told from his side. But I find it was hugely informative for me. As an only child, I had no brothers or anything. I learned so much about these creatures that I was quickly becoming sort of scared of. And to hear that they had a lot of the same concerns and moments of just complete and total, shame and confusion. It was like very made me feel very empathetic, I think, I could sort of understand it. And
yes,
I'm wondering how many girls read that book. Probably not a huge number, but I would guess more girls read that book than boys read "Are You There, God? It's Me."
I don't think any boys read that.
I think all boys should read that book.
Yeah.
I think what confuses me is I'm extremely curious about a lot of things. And I think that when you don't reach for fiction, like maybe you're not exercising your curiosity to its, greatest advantage or level. Like, I don't know.
Or your empathy. I mean, I remember there was a medical school that required fiction. I'm not sure if they probably did prescribe books that you needed to read. The whole idea was bedside manner. And I wish I had gotten the name of that medical school down because I've never been able to go back and see if they're still pursuing that and if it's working for them well. But the point was that fiction reading, you develop empathy. The characters, the interplay of characters, and the tragedies and the victories they go through, the arc, the character development along the way, and the changes that take place, and so on. I'm with you. Have you either or both of you read Harriet the Spy?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, do you consider that a book for girls?
I think it is a book. I mean, I don't know that it was meant to be, but I don't know any boys that read it. My brother
I
didn't.
did. I did. Actually, I ran across it and I read it and I started carrying a notebook and a pen with me.
We all
Yes.
did. We all did after reading that book.
Yeah, and I think that's when I was kind of set on the course of being a writer and a reader was there was something about, and God, I read it so long ago, of course, that I don't recall real particulars, but I wanted to carry that notebook and I wanted to make notes. I wanted to take things down. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, but you know, I ended up doing it. And you know, it's interesting because that name comes up recently in the last couple of years. I've just seen Harriet the Spy popping up a lot, or I've had people on the program who and they're talking about their past and mention Harriet the Spy, and boy, is that a book that stood the test of time.
Well, I'm just smiling as well. I love that. I love that you read that book and that it had such an impact on you. I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah, you can't see us, but we're both sitting here grinning in
Because I
approval.
honestly had one Harriet the Spy and well,
Yeah.
Well, you know, I grew up with three older sisters, and I think that had a huge impact on me because I understood women, or, you know, as much as a guy can understand women, I understood women early in life. Also, I could ask them all the questions that boys want to know answers to, and they would tell me, you know, like what do girls, you know, what are girls like, and how do they do this, how do they do that? And
I
then there
say
was
this?
Cosmopolitan magazine sitting around the house, and it would say what women really want, and it's like, well, I'm going to read that one. I want to find out.
Cosmo.
That's right, Cosmo.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we're getting a little far afield here, but let's
I
get
know.
back to your specifically your. Do you go to book conferences? Is that something I know? Book conferences cost money, and then there's travel involved and all those sorts of things. Is that part of the mix?
Part of the plan, I would say. They do cost money. They are also, you have to really plan ahead. And we did not, we didn't really, hadn't really thought of that, I think, early on. So we are now, like, we're trying to get into the LA Times Book Festival, which is in April, I believe. So I think, you know, this coming in 2026, we will start looking, you know, early in the year for book festivals and fairs and, you know, conferences and those sorts of things that it might make sense for us to go to. We just didn't really, when we were starting, we didn't really have that in our brains. But the Texas Book Festival was fantastic for us. It was a really great, we not only sold a lot of books, but we made a lot of connections. There were just a lot of people who, um, you know, put us on their Instagram or talked about us or, you know, brought friends over, you know, because they'd seen our booth and they wanted to bring other people. And so I think doing more of that makes a lot of sense for us. We just have to sort of have that be part of our plan, which it was not in the very beginning.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, you know, you scale up as you go as much as you
Yeah,
can, and
that's right.
you know, you're only the second publishing company I've had on the podcast. The only other one is one called Rare Bird Books, and there's a fellow named Tyson Cornell who founded that organization. He pops into my head, that company pops into my head because these are rare books that you're publishing in a sense, and his organization is Rare Bird Books, and or they a lot of times they just call it Rare Bird, and that might be a good coming together for you to, if you don't already know him in that
We don't.
organization.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
he's
know.
located in Los Angeles. Are you two bi-coastal still, or are you both in New
No,
York?
we're
Or
both in New York now.
okay,
We're,
he would. I'd certainly. He's the kind of guy who's very curious, so he'd certainly be interested in knowing about the two of you and what you're doing, whether or not you guys collaborate or not. But I think that could be a fruitful conversation. So, and I'll be happy to give you his contact information when we
Oh, that
wrap
would be
things up here.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the
absolutely.
things that we're still, you know, being the newbies, like just getting introduced into this world. Um, is something that takes time. But we found that every single small publisher that we've met has just been so hugely supportive. It's really a wonderful, wonderful community.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people who love books are, they definitely, it's not a competitive sort of industry. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, people look to help each other, and they
Mhm.
see, and there's advantages to um, collaborating in that way. The other one I wanted to mention to you, and I've had him on the program as well, although he's not a publisher, he is kind of a miniature Amazon books. It's called Shepherd, and the subtitle to is Books Are Magic, and that's another organization that I think would be really interested in um, learning about you. Certainly, a place where you can help promote your books as well. So we'll talk about
Thank
that
you.
too after we close out. What else do we need to know about Quite Literally Books? What are some of the things that maybe you're working on now? Do you do any special packaging when you mail books out? When somebody orders a book and you go to mail it?
Yes. Well, it's special in the sense that it looks special, but we do it for each and every book that comes when you order directly from us. And it's just a beautiful brown paper wrapper that we fold in a way that makes it really fun to unfold and see your book. And Bremond's been doing all of that recently with her own two little
But
hands.
that's part of sort of goes with the idea of our beautiful book that smells good and feels good and looks good. Is that even in opening the box that we send with the book when you order it from us,
Mhm.
that is a really enjoyable experience. That it's not bubble wrapped or shrunk wrapped or shrink wrapped or
Barcoded
yeah.
and rattling around a giant box. Like,
Yeah.
no, we want it to
And
feel.
we have had many people that ask, could you put a note in that says, happy birthday, mom, I love you, or whatever. And we handwrite those notes and put them in there if you want that. So we want people to be excited when they open a box from us that
Yeah.
that it's going to be beautiful and fun to unwrap.
Right. And we have six
Right.
books that are all very, very different. And so, if on our website, we have very good descriptions of each of them. But if people are having trouble choosing or would like some advice and some recommendations, that's something that we love to do. And we encourage people to drop us an email or DM us through, Instagram. And we're so happy to chat and help.
Yeah, so Ben Fox is the guy over at Shepherd Books, and I'll put you in touch with him.
Thank
It's worth taking a flyer on it.
Yeah.
Um, so
We definitely
presentation is so important. I think maybe nowadays more than ever. Uh, so
Well, it's a
it's great that you're doing
differentiating
that.
factor for us. It makes us different than, if you order a book from Amazon or if you order a book, really almost from anywhere.
you.
Yeah.
It's a more special experience.
So talk about the titles of your books and how people, I mean, you have a website that's simple enough, quite literally books.com. And for you listeners, I have that URL in the episode notes. But obviously you can order there, I would imagine. Go ahead though and tell us about the titles of your books and best way to order.
Okay, so the first three, I'll try to make this short. The first three books that we published were the
Homemaker by Dorothy Canfield Fisher.
written in 1924.
Plum Bun by Jessie Redmond Fawcett, who was a really key figure in the Harlem Renaissance, and she's all but been forgotten. That was written in 1928 or 29, depending on what source you look at.
The Pink House by Nelia Gardner White, which was written in 1950, which is the only one that was still in copyright, and is a great, I call it a curl up with a cup of tea kind of book.
Cozy read, yeah.
Cozy
And
read.
then we have three new titles that just came out in November. The first one is Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, published in 1915.
And then we have Who Would Have Thought It, which is by Maria Amparo Ruiz de Burton, who is a Mexican-American author. This book was written in 1872, and it is fantastic.
It is a hoot.
Wow.
And you would not, if you read it, you won't necessarily know that that's when it was written.
Very
And when you
satirical.
say, I heard you say it's a hoot, does that mean
Yeah.
it's comedic?
It's a satire.
It's a satire, and it's so prescient and so relevant today. We recommend it highly.
Yes. And then finally, we have The Little Dinner by Christine Terhune Herrick, which is a sort of how-to book and cookbook, recipe book that was written in 1892 by a woman who we're sort of calling the Martha Stewart of the 19th century, who told you wrote books about how to run your life, run your kitchen, your home, your children, your everything.
All of it, yes. And she was super opinionated, and she was also super funny. It's actually one of the books where, Bremond and I were reading it, and we'd periodically stop and, be
Listen
chuckling
to
and be
this.
like, wait, listen to this, listen to this.
Interesting. So, and they can purchase them, readers can purchase them on your site. Is it strictly on your site, or are they available on other platforms?
They are available at your local independent bookstore. If they don't have us on their shelves, they can easily order us either through our distributor or directly from us, actually, even. So there are lots of different ways to
bookstores, we wholesale ourselves. So if your bookstore doesn't have an account with our distributor, Asterism, then the bookstore can contact us directly and we will send them books.
Fantastic. Well, my guests have been Lisa Endo Cooper and Bremond Barry MacDougall. And quite literally, books is their creation. And ladies, it sounds like you're off to a great start. I wish you all the best and really appreciate you coming on the program and sharing this concept. I've never heard of this concept before, so you're breaking new ground. Thank you for giving us the walkthrough.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been fun.
Really fun chatting with you.